So last session I talked about data modeling. We understand ER model, how to interpret an ER model, understand what data is stored in our database. I think a couple of things that we need to cover is one thing is we had left the data mapping part incomplete in the interface diagrams. So let's complete that, and I'll also give you some basics about SQL. Okay, so you're not completely dependent on the development team. You can write some basic queries, and you have an idea about how information is retrieved from your databases. Okay. Now, before going into SQL, let's figure out about the data mapping part, right? So it's a very simple way of mapping your data. All you do is you would link your the data what you want in your interface. So the data point, you will point to that particular attribute and the entity in which it is there, right? So usually, if you recall, I told you that the data is basically stored in tables, right? Each entity generally becomes a table, and all the attributes become the columns, right? Now, if I'm asked to pick up this particular data point, like the physician ID number, right? So I would point to the doctor table dot doctor underscore physician ID number. So this would be the attribute that I'm picking up from, right? So in this case, like if you're picking up all this card related information, so if I have to interpret this, I'm saying that the table card has this information, and you have to look at the attributes: credit card number, expiry date, dot CVV number, dot name. So we are clearly mentioning that these are the data points that these are the attributes that are part of the table card, and we'll have to bring this data from that particular table and attribute. Okay. So make sense now? You're able to understand the data mapping part, or still is it not clear? It's just that if you understand the data model, this starts making sense. So since we didn't cover the data model earlier when we talked about the interfaces, I just kept that on hold. Now that we understand the data model, right? So we will have the representation for data mapping in this way. We have the card name and we'll have the table name and then the attribute name followed by a dot. Okay. So basically what we are saying is that pick up the credit card number from this particular table card and the attribute credit card underscore number. Clear about this? Any questions? All right, so that's onto the data mapping. I can close on to these documents. I'll give a brief overview about SQL. Right?
Raju, can you just repeat it again? The data mapping, I just missed it.
All right. That's okay. Now in this interface, what we're saying that this information is stored in our database: the credit card number, expiry date, CVV number, cardholder name, type of card, and address. All these are already there in our database. The user does not have to enter all that. Okay. So where did you store that in your database? You'll have to point it out clearly, right? Now the credit card number, I'm saying that it's stored in this particular table card and the attribute credit card, credit underscore card underscore number. So card would be an entity or a table basically, right? So if you recall your ER diagram also, right? So at the end of it, it's nothing but a collation of tables, right? If you recall from the doctor, patient, and appointment, the hospital management system, we'll have a table for doctor where all the doctors who are there in the hospital will be stored in this table. All the patients which are registered with the hospital will be stored in this table. Any appointment which is created would be stored in this table, right? So we have these various entities, and each of those entities is capturing some attributes, and that generally is nothing but a table of information, right? So these are the columns what you're seeing are nothing but the nothing but the attributes, right? So similarly, in this case also, here all in this example, what I'm saying is the credit card details are stored in this entity card, and the attributes credit card number is mapped to this credit card number. If you want the credit card number, pick it up from the card table and credit card number attribute. Similarly, expiry date also is one of the attribute in the card table, so map it to that and then pick it up from there. Okay. So you're clearly calling out where that data is stored in your system, right? So usually if you look at this notation, it's separated by a dot, right? Yeah. So card means card dot expiry number. So here card is the table name, and dot this expiry date is the attribute name. Okay. So this would be the particular column which you'll have to pick it up from. So clear? So sorry, who asked that question? Is that clear for you, or you want me to take one more example?
No, yeah, it is clear now.
Okay. It's quite simple. I think, just that we didn't cover that earlier. We didn't know how data is stored in our databases. We didn't look at it earlier, but it's a very simple exercise. So all you do when you are doing your interfaces is, you'll sit with that ER model. You'll say, okay, now where is this data coming in from? If your system already is designed, and then you'll have to extract the data from other system. You'll ask for the data model, then you'll look at that data model and then figure out, okay, what data points do we need from this system, right? So which table is it stored, which attribute is it stored? Then you would pick it up and then map it to your data points here. Okay. So that is where your knowledge of your ER models would come in.